Hello, Mark.
Hey, Matt.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and begin? We have a quorum and it's 7 o'clock. Call to order the February 7th, 2022 meeting in the Park Recreation and Forestry Commission agenda. Matt, have you taken the roll call?
I do have the roll.
All right, thank you. Moving first item of business, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting as in your packet.
This is Cook. I'll make that motion.
All right,
I'll
Jim.
second.
All right, who second? David? Yeah. All right, thank you. Any corrections, additions, changes? All right, David, you're still muted. Sue, you might want to unmute for this. There we go. All right, hearing no other comments, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so the minutes are accepted as presented. New business. Matt, I'll turn this over to you. This presentation for the joint school district and Cross Plains and Middleton cities interest in.
Sure. So a little bit of background. I think most of the commission members are aware that we are intrinsically entwined with the school district in terms of outdoor facility use agreement and a number of shared spaces. And the school district is looking at long-range planning for their future needs. And we've had a series of discussions and I thought it was best that we participate in the process up until this point, and that there's a lot of parallels between what happens at the youth sport level and the high school athletics in terms of overlap of facility use. There's a lot of cohesion between some of the athletic programs and the youth sport programs that we have agreements with and that utilize our fields. So in addition to the high school athletic teams that use our parks, a lot of the youth sport programs have agreements with us where they've been financial partners in the build out of athletic space. They have use agreements and in a lot of ways have also partnered with us in the development of several of those amenities. So as we look to the future and plan out what high school athletics is going to look like, it only makes sense to at the same time look at what our youth sport needs are. And joining us tonight are Dana Minogue, who's the superintendent of the school district, Jamie Sims, who's the athletic director for Middleton High School, and John Kinnear, who's with Rettler Corporation, who the school district has entered into agreement with to do a athletic needs feasibility plan. And they're all on the call and can answer any questions. But really this was to try and provide an update on where this process is at and what the anticipated cost to the city in development of this plan would be. And happy to answer any questions and allow anyone else from the school district to speak as well.
All right, anybody have anything fun to say? Dana, you want to jump in or?
Sure. I just would like to add that we're excited to partner with the city and the village on this really important work. It's a little bit overdue. The system has not really taken stock in a formal kind of systemic way of athletic and activities facilities in a really long time. And so we're thrilled that the city of Middleton and the village of Cross Plains want to kind of lock arms with us and do it collaboratively. Yeah, we're the next couple of months though, and I believe John Kinnear from Rettler, our third party facilitator, is on the call too, but we're going to go through, he's going to go through an analysis of all of our facilities. There will also be some focus group opportunities. All the data will culminate in recommendations to our school board and to our administrative team, to the city and to the village with respect to what we should be thinking about in the short and long term.
All right. Jamie, anything you want to add to that?
No, I just think it's been really beneficial for me to be able to work with Matt and the city, knowing that it's unique with the partnership and how much we actually share. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us both to kind of add on to what we know is needed by way of facilities with regards to our students as well as the community in Middleton and Cross Plains. So I'm just excited for this opportunity for us to see some growth with regards to our facilities.
Thank you. I mean, I think it sounds like a good idea initially from what I've seen, because we do the same things and we've been at cross purposes for many years. And it seems we collaborate and we bump heads. And I think this is a great opportunity to pull us together and see what's going on. John, you want to make some comments about the proposal?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for some time tonight. We're looking forward to collaborating with the school district, the village, and the city. I think having this approach, multifaceted approach, looking at all the facilities within the community, seeing as how they're intertwined and used by many different groups, makes a lot of sense to look at it comprehensively. We're looking forward to taking a look at those facilities, really digging into the current conditions, assessing those conditions, and making recommendations. One very important part of the study that I'll touch on very quickly is going to be input. So we're very excited to sit down with the user groups and sit down with the school activities as well, and see how we can most efficiently approach outdoor athletic facilities for the future of Middleton Cross Plains.
Other comments, members of the board?
May I ask a question? This is
Sure.
Molly Duffy from Middleton United Soccer Club, and I'm one of those youth sports. So I run Middleton United, and I'm just curious when you guys are going to start gauging and getting input from community organizations.
John, that would be to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. So soon. We're right now we're in the very early stages of our study. Just kind of getting to know the project parameters. And the first step we're going to take is a project inventory, Molly. So we're looking at the village outdoor athletic assets, the city outdoor athletic assets, and then we're putting together a list of the assets at the high school. Once we put that together comprehensively, it's much like a park comprehensive plan, where we're going to look at the regional locations. And then when the weather gets good, we're going to start looking at conditions. That's very important, is to do a condition assessment. We just completed a study a few years back for Madison Metropolitan School District, district-wide comprehensively assessing their facilities, outdoor athletic facilities in particular. And that led to their successful referendum project that just recently passed and has many athletic improvements involved with it. So I don't have a date just yet, long story short, but we'll be communicating very closely and openly, I think, as to when those are going to be. After we get our analysis underway, one of the next steps we're going to take right away is to put together a project schedule, a timeline, so we can begin communicating that with the user groups and all the interested parties that are going to give input to this process.
Awesome, thank you. And I would love to be a part of that. We heavily use Penny Klein, and I know that I've emailed back and forth with Jamie about stuff, so would love to be a part of that going forward. So.
All right. Other comments, questions?
This might be a stupid question, but was there any thought about involving the town? Okay, Matt, it's a stupid question. I'll shut up now.
No, that's a great question. I think when it comes to kind of where our facilities are located, that's why we engage Middleton and Cross Plains. As the project progresses and as the inventories are done, certainly if we find it helpful to engage some of the other municipalities that we serve, we certainly can.
I echo Dana's sentiments, and the one thing I'd be remiss in not mentioning is you briefly were introduced there to Jamie Sims, who's the athletic director at the high school. I think Jamie started during the pandemic, if I'm correct. So I think this is the first time a lot of you have likely met him. As he referenced, there is a lot of interaction between our departments. And you know, again, the school district's a great partner, and we try and be an equal partner and work well with them in providing service to the community in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of cohesion. We're really thankful to the athletic coaches that get involved at the youth level. That to me is the measure of success in a lot of communities when you have that interaction. And Jamie's been a huge proponent, and we've had a lot of good things happening even during the pandemic between the high school athletic programs and the youth sport programs in the community.
Yeah, kudos, Jamie. I just hope nobody plays darts while you're sitting there. It's right.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm alone in the basement, so I'm safe for now.
Okay, that's right. All right. Other comments? I think this is a good idea, Matt. I would still also hope, John, as you look at going forward, all of us, that we have seen for many years in this committee and others, that there's a conflicting set of needs, or not conflicting, but there's more needs and more desires than there are often spaces, et cetera. And as you look at the evaluation of this, I think it's critical that we have to look at what's there and what's not there. And hopefully this will give us a better ability, all of the partners involved, to look at how to begin to prioritize what happens with what, where, and when, and how. So I hope you keep that as an emphasis on this study.
Absolutely, John, and that's a great overview of this study and what we hope to attain at the end of this as a finished product.
All right. Other board members' comments, or anybody?
I would just add that in the inventory, there's going to be potential, well, there will be potential new green areas coming online before too long. And I'm guessing that you've got that built into your long-term plan. And John, is that something that you've got going on?
Yes, we'll be working really closely with Matt. I know the corp has just recently been updated and would identify those spaces, but we'll work very closely with Matt to ensure that we're not only looking at today's facilities, but the facilities of tomorrow, as well as using that to help guide our recommendations.
Yeah, I agree. And I thank you, Jim. I think the idea of having some kind of a tool that helps us in the future to look at prioritizing when we make decisions about when and where to add new parks and new facilities would be very helpful. All right, any other comments, questions?
Yes, I have a question. I know it's Middleton Cross Plains School District. I don't really know what kind of facilities in Cross Plains is included in this, if anything is.
Sure, I can speak to that. So we do have some space and some facilities in the area of Glacier Creek Middle School. There's a baseball complex and some potential green space to consider. And so they are a partner in this effort as well.
Okay.
Also, the cross-country team uses Bear Park as their home course for meets that they host, so which is in Cross Plains as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other voices? All right, good. I think it's been somewhat a consensus that we think this is a good idea. I'm not hearing any negative thoughts, so I guess you have our rah go ahead, and I think it's a great project to start looking to do.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you showing up. Matt, is there anything else you need on this?
No.
Hearing with it, yeah. Okay, moving on to item number 2 then, a review of conceptual options for Lakeview Park tennis courts.
So I'm gonna start out with kind of a disappointment here in that we budgeted $300,000 And we're looking at, potential ways of adding additional courts. And I want to pull up the information here just a moment. Because I think what the work that was done here is really good. Let me get to the right spot. And I want to go through each of these options and just kind of explain them quickly, answer any questions. And then we're going to have some discussion on what our next steps are and where to go from here. I'm going to go back to concept 1.
It's page 17, 18, something like
It may very well be.
that. Yeah. Well,
So if you see my screen here, concept 1.
we don't. We just see the agenda.
Okay. How about now?
There we go.
All right. So concept 1 builds upon the existing forecourts. For those that aren't familiar, you see the baseball diamond, which is the edge of Sorensen Field here on the left of the screen. The courts are currently in this alignment, but there are 2 courts on each side of the middle. This would expand. It would actually take the first row of parking, which I don't think is a good idea, but it shows you how you could obtain 6 courts on the site. We would lose that initial first row of parking. If I can get to it, let's see. Concept 2 looks very similar, but rather than expanding into the parking area, it goes a little bit closer to the baseball diamond and extends a little bit further north to allow, I guess that's not, now that is north. But it shows 6 courts on the site. There would need to be retaining walls on both sides of this to allow this elevation work to occur, but it does show that an expansion to 6 courts is possible. In my review, and I don't want to jump the gun here, but my review of the options, I think this concept was the best of the 3 proposed concepts. I think it was also the most cost effective. Concept 3 stacks 2 on top of 2 on top of 2 and extends into some environmentally sensitive areas, and I don't think is a viable option, but it does again show how 6 courts could be achieved on site. Again, I'm going to go back to this concept number 2, which I think is the most viable concept should we want to expand. I'm going to come back and just talk about options moving forward. I think everyone saw the estimate, and if not, I'll pull that back up here.
I think it was from 532 to 561,000.
So the original estimate for reconstruction that was developed in 2017 was 288,000. And I think longtime commission members will remember we've had this on, I think, every capital project plan since 2018, and have had challenges and other priorities and challenges in getting this project funded. The cost is now an estimated 432,000 to replace the existing 4 courts. So you can see in 5 years' time how costs have escalated. The other discussion point here is that to use park development funds on this project and comply with the requirements for park development funds, we'd be in a situation where we would have to be expanding or significantly improving the facility for us to use a portion of park development funds. If we're just replacing what's there, we'd be solely looking at a capital allocation. This year's budget, the $300,000 was split half between the park development fund and half from the capital improvement plan. I don't see a project moving forward this year. I see us having to request additional funding or reallocation of funding in 2023 to move the project forward. Open to thoughts, questions, or ideas.
Well, Matt, if it's my understanding, part of what the expansion was the idea of pulling together tennis facilities into one larger, more citywide facility. So it would allow you to use some of those park development funds from some of these projects for which there's no space and money coming in. Any thoughts on that? Is that still part of the motivation and plan here?
Yeah, I think the challenge becomes is how much percentage of a project the attorneys are comfortable with moving forward. And I got them to agree the 50-50 split. I don't know that we're going to be able to go more than that unless we're adding additional courts. And I think you can see that it's going to be extremely difficult to go more than 6 courts at this site.
All right, other thoughts?
Oh, Matt, we just had the school board here talking about facility improvements. They apparently use these facilities for boys and girls for their JV squads. Have you talked to them about them potentially contributing to this?
I've not talked directly to them about Lakeview. We've had a fair amount of discussion about the high school courts, and that in 2024, we have a $750,000 project to redo the tennis courts at the high school. And my concern with the courts at the high school is that we've been in a 50-50 cost share agreement on those courts that city residents get 6 weeks of access to. Because the high school season in the spring has extended farther into June. The high school season in the fall has extended into the first week of August. And the window that those courts are available outside of the school district's use has gotten considerably narrowed. And I'm not opposed to having discussions there about how we move forward there, but I also have to argue that it's probably one of the best deals a school district gets in the state of Wisconsin for the city to foot half of the cost of providing the high school tennis courts. Now, you get into the discussion about the Lakeview courts, and I agree, Mark, that however we move forward at Lakeview with improvements, we probably need to have that discussion with the school district about either rental rate or some financial contribution towards their construction, maintenance, and improvements, because I think, as everyone's aware, this is a significant cost in however we move forward and try and address this issue.
Well, it's straight, isn't this what this whole story we've just been hearing about? Should have things like this involved in there. And clearly this is a project not for this year. And so it may be that, we can look at these options, but the reality is we need to wait until we have this discussion and this strategic planning or planning with the school board, or the school and the city to see where we come out on the end of that. Other thoughts from the commission? Jim, go ahead.
So we want to, of course, expand the number of courts. But given these costs, has anyone, or is it worth looking at saying, we want to expand it, we can't afford 6, 4 is not enough, but what would 5 courts cost, and how would that be? How could you design the plan with 5 as opposed to 6? I don't know if that's been anything that's been discussed.
I think you typically have even numbers of, they call them batteries. So if you'd have 3 in the north and 2 on the south or vice versa, you typically have consistency with how those are done. It could be something that we ask the consultant to develop a cost estimate for. It is another option. I think it might be a case of saving $1 in the short run that doesn't make a lot of sense in the long run. Just in knowing the kind of the, I don't want to say capitalization, but obviously there's a, you want to maximize your site is my take on this is you want to maximize your site because your asphalt cost, if you spread that, doing 6 courts is more effective, as we've talked about, than doing 4 courts here and 2 courts in another park. All of your costs are going to increase as you spread this out over multiple sites.
Matt, can you answer a question? Because maybe I'm confused on what we're talking about. Was this really the need for more courts, or is that you wanted to be able to alleviate having to spend money on satellite courts that we didn't have? And this way, by consolidating it, would alleviate funding for some repair of some of the other ones.
So I'll back up a step. For the last 22 years, we've had 18 tennis courts in our park system. Since Orchid Heights, I believe Orchid Heights was the last court that came online.
Yeah.
So since Orchid Heights was developed, we've had 18 tennis courts in our system. The community's grown quite a bit over that time. We haven't added any tennis courts.
I thought we put tennis courts at Bishop's Bay.
Those are pickleball.
They're all pickleball or they're split?
No, all 8 are pickleball courts at Bishop's Bay. And so, one of my thoughts here is that adding these 2 courts and the justification of park development is growth of the community. I think I've also talked about we need to stop putting 2 tennis courts in other smaller parks, right? Because there's a value in having a complex. I think it's a really tough discussion and a tough decision to decide that at some point in the future, we're going to remove 2 tennis courts from a park that have always had tennis courts. But I think it's a bad idea to build 2 tennis courts in the future in a park, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Other comments, questions? Well, I guess it still strikes me that until we have this study that's coming on board on the table, and since we're not funding this year anyways, it strikes me that the best thing to do is we appreciate this information, but let you go forward with this study and see what comes out and express these needs to the whole committee. And at some point you'll come back with either more confusion or more clarification on how we might set forward with this stuff.
Mark, from a financial standpoint, is this something that I want to go back to finance, update them and offer back the 150,000 this year?
No.
Okay.
I would just tell them that you
obviously we'd have to request to carry over the amount and hope that we get additional funding in 2023.
fight that battle then.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think you got this plan coming up as a good reason to postpone some of these things till we clarify. I hope the council, maybe not Mark, but everybody else would maybe be sensitive. So, all right, any other comments or disagreements or anything?
I would just add, Matt, that, if you had an opportunity for school board money on this, I think that would go a long way as well. Right? If you came at this with a contribution from them on the construction costs, I think that would probably help you an awful lot.
I think along with this, I think we need to put together a package on both this and the high school tennis courts with some realistic plan of how it's going to be funded for for not just us, I'm sure this is a huge financial impact for the school district as well.
Right.
It's a significant, when you're looking at these courts at Lakeview and the courts at the high school, that is a significant expenditure for our park system.
Sarah, you're not a tennis player, are you? Oh, are you muted? I'm not hearing you. Oh, sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but anyways. You'll figure it out. You can tell us at the next meeting what you think about it. Matt, I had one question about your options.
Yeah.
The 1 and 2. Both of them have, to me, one complication is that you lose your access and entrance into the courts. You know, if you go look at the original, you've got an entrance gate and you got a place where people sort of congregate as they move in and out of this. On that plan, it shows that fence literally right up on the parking lot.
That'd be addressed in the more detailed design. This is just a conceptual. One of the challenges at the current courts is ADA compliance, and that'd be one step in the project of bringing these into the compliance and having the correct widths. If you think about it, tennis courts back prior to ADA were designed to really limit access so that people just couldn't run onto the courts.
Mhm.
And as a result, you have some really narrow access points. ADA requires 34 inches, and most tennis courts, that's a limiting factor.
Well, it may require in that plan, maybe 2 of the parking spots that be removed and to sort of give an access way in. Anyway. Any other thoughts about, well, we'll revisit whether 1, 2, or 3. I think I agree with Matt that 2 looks the best of those concepts. 3 stretches way too far. And in terms of accessibility in future, trying to deal with that one, that seems like that would be a nightmare. So kind of falls on the other bit. If I don't hear any other thing, I'd say, Matt, I guess the advice is let's wait on any decision factors until you get a chance to work this through and see what goes on with this study. So if you're okay with that.
Yep.
All right, moving on to item number 3, award of design services to Weiser. I guess it's Weiser if you would say it in a German engineering. Or maybe it's Weiser.
So this is the next step with the Central Cross Country Ski Project, the development of Erdman Park. As we've met internally and with CXC, one of the biggest elements of the project is developing a comprehensive stormwater plan for the overall site. The initial driveway and 15 stall parking lot had a stormwater plan for it, but we really need to look at stormwater management for the bike park, the future trail development, the other future development on the site. And so that this RFP looked at the trail design as well as a stormwater plan for the overall future build out of not only the bike park, but the overall site. So we put out an RFP, we sent it to 3 firms. 2 of those firms responded. I did a cost breakdown that they can pull up, but we felt that both firms responding were, well, something's really wrong here. Let me go to the agenda packet. My hope is that all the proposals were in the agenda packet. It appears that they didn't all make the.
Well, there was the one proposal, and then the other seemed more just the bios.
So the Weiser proposal starts on page 63 of the packet. And they have the projected cost is $49,440. The Tetra Tech proposal had a fee projection. I'm going off the top of my head. I want to say it was $102,000. I also did a analysis that I hope made the packet here. So you can see Tetra Tech's cost on the left-hand column of the screen. I'm going to increase the size of this for everyone. This is page 76 of the packet.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
So you see Tetra Tech on the left and Weiser on the right.
Mhm.
The hours were fairly similar for phase A. Phase B is the actual bidding and the actual design documents, and Tetra Tech put a lot more hours into that. Eric Sorensen from our public works staff, the assistant director of the department, reviewed these with me. We were both confident that Weiser has a scope and an hours base that justifies the work for the project, and are recommending award of this work to Weiser.
So Matt, under your phase B, there's significant differences in the way each of these teams are moving towards this. I mean, for Tetra, they get a lot of money under engineering review, and we get none of that under Weiser. Maybe you could comment.
So just in full disclosure, Tetra Tech did the phase 1 design work for CXC. And I talked with their staff today about this, and that they clearly admitted to me that their senior engineer on the project donated a lot of his time to CXC for the phase 1 work, and he wasn't going to donate his time for phase 2. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I also think it's Tetra Tech did a lot of work and put a lot of effort into the phase 1 work, and they may have been looking to recoup some of their costs in phase 2.
All right. Questions, comments? So you're comfortable with Weiser rather than continuing on with the Tetra for consistency's sake, or?
I think that the work that Tetra Tech has provided was quality work, and that it's owned by the project and will be provided to whoever we hire for this work, and that I am confident that we'll do what's needed to make a seamless transition. I can't justify the additional expense of staying with Tetra Tech. I think they're a good firm, they do good work, but I also think the same of Weiser.
Right. Well, in the absence of money, that's a good trend to lean towards.
And Weiser is not someone the city's unfamiliar with. Weiser does a lot of stormwater engineering work for a lot of the private development that is submitted to the city. And so they're not a stranger in terms of the city and the city process.
Yeah, and this money's already in place and been
It
set
is.
aside and approved, so this is, so it's part of a pot. We'll actually save a little bit with this.
Well, we still have to construct what this plan comes forward with, and that'll, the idea is that there will be a discussion once the design is finalized and this goes out to bid and we get prices in terms of what the city is going to construct with the funds it has available, and what will be the responsibility of CXC to construct. And there'll be a prioritization of those improvements.
All right. All right. Other comments, questions?
I was going to say that I think maybe Mark was willing to donate some of his time prior because of his connection with the Black Hawk ski jump. Don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm familiar with Weiser and they do very good work.
Yeah. Okay. Others? All right, I guess hearing none, I would entertain a motion to recommend this contract. But I don't know how you want to word that map, but
It's a motion to approve.
approve. Okay. All right.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the contract.
All
Weiser.
right. Motion from David. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, second. All right, any further discussion of the motion? All right, hearing none, and Sarah, since we can't hear you, raise your hand if you want. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, which is discussion about changing the fees for the use of the swimming pool. So I understand you're looking for flat across the board $5 per person.
One thing I want to point out really quick first, since we were on the CXC project, and I'm not sure that I've had a chance to share this update, but in total, they've sold over 1,000 passes in year 1. They had their first large race event over this past weekend. All indications are that things went extremely well. We've dealt with some initial challenges with parking, the newness of the facility, and finally having snow over the holiday season led to a lot of pressure on limited parking. It's since relieved itself and has been going much better. I think to Yuri's credit, he's worked really closely with Jeremy and the staff at the golf course to ensure that things are moving cohesively together forward. And for a year 1 facility, all indications are that things have went as well or better than expected.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
In terms of the pool, Rebecca had a memo in the packet. I'm showing that on the screen currently. The adult admission was raised to $5 from $4.50 in 2017. In 2018, the fee for youth was raised to $4 from $3.50. During the pandemic, they had a consistent fee of $4. She goes on to state a number of reasons of why she's advocating to raise that to $5 for all patrons. From a customer service standpoint, it makes it easier to move large groups through. There's been some concern. The mayor talked to me about a discount for Middleton residents. The most revenue we generate is for pool passes, the season passes. There are resident rates, pretty substantially reduced resident rates for those passes. And I think a majority of our regular families that use the pool purchase a season-long pass to access the pool, where we have youth, adult, and family rates for those pool passes that are significantly discounted for Middleton residents. One of the challenges in trying to do a resident discount at the front desk counter of the pool is that we typically, those are 14, 15, 16-year-old staff taking that admission and trying to prove someone's resident status when people don't always bring their IDs to the pool, or that a lot of people in our community don't necessarily necessitate a difference or identify a difference between living in the town of Middleton or the city of Middleton, can be problematic. So we're advocating for a lot of reasons the straight $5 admit fee to the pool. Happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
And I'd also maybe point out that a lot of the patrons that use the pool are 13, 14, 15 years old, and ask a 13, 14, or 15-year-old if to prove that they're a Middleton resident is next to impossible.
Yes.
That also extends into the city of Madison, where they have a Middleton address and a Middleton zip code.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they go to school at Middleton and they just don't understand they're a Madison resident. So I think, yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, this would have no effect on the season passes, right?
No, the season passes would stay at the rates they've been at the last few years.
So it's just walk-ins.
Yep.
All right, other comments? Questions? No, I think it makes a lot of sense. We're not talking about large dollars, 30 change to $40. I think that, we have a $2 to $5 million pool renovation at some point. It's going to happen here. And I think that it's a valuable asset. And I think I'm very comfortable with moving it all to $5 and simplifying it.
I think so too.
Okay.
Oops.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the change in the fee structure.
I will move that we change the fee structure for the pool from $4 a person to $5 per person.
Okay, regardless of age. That's it.
Please,
All right, do I have a
regardless of,
second? Do I have a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
David, thank you for second. Any questions or comments about the motion? Discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing none, that approved. So thank you all very much. That's the end of our agenda. Unless somebody wants to talk and chat about things, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
David moves. So do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
Thank you, sir.
Fighting
Any
Court.
discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you all. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.